that time, I consider the years I spent on I Love Lucy to be perhaps the biggest rip-off of my career.
Vivian Vance and William Frawley won over millions as the lovable neighbors Fred and Ethel Mertz on I Love Lucy from 1951 to 1957. But behind their convincing on-screen chemistry, Vance couldn't stand Frawley. Their off-camera relationship became one of the most infamous feuds in Hollywood history. The drama that unfolded behind the scenes was long kept quiet, but once you discover what Frawley did, it's clear why Vivian never forgave him. Don't skip ahead, this goes deeper than the usual celebrity squabble. You won't want to miss what really happened. Back when Lucille Ball was getting her new show I Love Lucy off the ground, no one realized it would become a TV sensation. At that point, it was just a group of creatives trying to make the pieces fit. Lucy, being the powerhouse she was, had a clear vision for every role. For Ethel Mertz, her first pick was the talented B.A. Bernadette. But as luck would have it, B.A. was already tied up with other projects and couldn't commit. So Lucy moved on to another friend, Mary Wickes. Mary had the talent for the part, and Lucy thought she'd be perfect. But Mary turned it down, not because she wasn't interested, but because she didn't want their friendship to be strained if things got awkward on set. That kind of loyalty is rare. Meanwhile, Desi Arnaz, Lucy's husband and more than just her on-screen partner, was working hard behind the scenes, especially with casting decisions. He had real influence and was determined to get everything just right. You'd think working on a legendary show like I Love Lucy would bring people together, but behind the laughter, tension was growing. Vivian Vance developed a deep resentment for William Frawley, and it wasn't just a few petty disagreements. This was serious animosity. So, what went wrong between two actors who portrayed such a sweet married couple but could hardly be near each other off set? Stick around, once the truth comes out, you'll never see the show the same way again. And trust me, the conclusion is something else. At one point, Lucy considered casting James Gleason, a respected character actor she'd worked with on Miss Grant Takes Richmond, for the role of Fred Mertz. She thought he had the right energy, but negotiations fell apart when he asked for $3,500 per episode, an enormous amount at the time. The studio flat out refused. So the search continued. Then came William Frawley, 64 years old, a vaudeville veteran with nearly 100 film credits under his belt. He wasn't approached, he took the initiative and called Lucy himself. CBS wasn't thrilled. Frawley had a reputation for heavy drinking, and they were wary. But Desi Arnaz stood up for him, insisting he could handle the role. Desi made him sign a strict contract that said if he ever showed up drunk, he'd be fired on the spot. Frawley agreed. That's how badly he wanted in. Here's something most fans didn't know: the actors who played Fred and Ethel Mertz disliked each other intensely in real life. A huge part of the tension stemmed from the 22-year age gap between them. Frawley was 64 when the show started, Vance was just 42. It wasn't a slight age difference, it was a full generation. To Vivian, it felt all wrong. She couldn't shake the feeling that he was old enough to be her father. At first, they kept things civil. But over time, Vivian began to resent what she saw. She was in her prime, youthful, attractive, and talented, while Frawley came across as tired and grumpy. She once vented during a rehearsal, saying, "Nobody will believe I'm married to that old goat." Unfortunately for her, Frawley heard the remark. From that moment, things got tense. You can't really blame her. She was an actress in her early 40s, hitting her stride, but was stuck playing the wife of someone who looked more like her uncle than her husband. Meanwhile, Lucy was living it up as a glamorous wife opposite the charming Desi Arnaz. The contrast couldn't have been more obvious. On top of that, producers purposely dressed Vivian in frumpy clothes, gave her unflattering makeup, and made her character look dull next to Lucy. This chipped away at her confidence and, over time, likely affected her emotionally. To make matters worse, Vivian and Lucy were close in age in real life. So watching her peer get to play the fun, stylish wife while she was cast as the plain, older sidekick must have felt incredibly unfair. She ended up in a role that didn't reflect her talent or reality, stuck in an unconvincing marriage with a man old enough to collect Social Security. This wasn't just about vanity, it was about dignity, career prospects, and the types of roles she kept getting cast in. That wasn't just irritating, it was emotionally exhausting. And the audience? They picked up on it too. People began murmuring, with some claiming that Fred and Ethel's marriage seemed completely phony, like a miserable, sexless relationship. Vivian felt that deeply. Every time she had to film a scene showing affection toward Frawley, it was like forcing down a mouthful of sour lemon juice. She outright refused to kiss him. Instead, she perfected the air kiss, those kisses that look real on screen but involve zero lip contact. Watch the jail cell scene in the episode Equal Rights. Not even a quick peck, just stiff body language and an eye roll that screams, "I can't believe I have to do this again." As for Frawley, he didn't take it quietly. He was petty and made sure the writers included digs at Ethel, lines mocking her appearance, like calling her figure a sack full of doorknobs. Harsh, right? But strangely, it worked. That tension between them? It made their scenes crackle. Their arguments felt real because they were. That wasn't clever acting, it was genuine animosity cleverly disguised as comedy. And viewers couldn't get enough of it. But carrying that kind of negativity takes its toll. For Vivian, it wasn't just about unflattering jokes or frumpy outfits, it was being tethered to a character and relationship that made her uncomfortable. No matter how hard she tried to move forward, she couldn't shake off the shadow of Ethel Mertz, this nagging wife of an older man. That role clung to her like gum stuck to the sole of a shoe. When she thought back on I Love Lucy, it wasn't just about the laughs or fame, it was also about the emotional cost of keeping that role alive. Then came CBS with a major proposal, a Mertz's spin-off. It was a big deal, a huge opportunity, with a $50,000 bonus on the table. But Vivian turned it down. No way. Not for any amount of money. She couldn't stand the thought of spending more time with Frawley, especially without Lucy and Desi around to buffer their interactions. Imagine refusing that kind of money just because working with someone again made your skin crawl. That says everything. Sure, their on-screen chemistry was iconic, but it came with a price. Behind the laughs and sitcom charm was a very real discomfort Vivian dealt with every day. That 22-year age gap? It wasn't just a number, it symbolized missed opportunities, crushed confidence, and a lasting professional weight. It's wild to think that what made the show so memorable was rooted in real-life pain. Makes you wonder what other TV classics are hiding, doesn't it? We all loved Fred and Ethel's bickering on I Love Lucy, but what if that tension wasn't just good acting? The truth is, Vivian Vance didn't merely dislike William Frawley, she truly despised him. And for years, the real reason stayed hidden. Fans speculated. Rumors flew. But the full truth? That's only surfacing now. So what really happened? Was Frawley impossible to work with? Did Vance take it too far? Or was this feud deeper than a simple clash of personalities? If you think it was just an old Hollywood squabble, think again. Stick around, because the real story is juicier than anything you'd see in a sitcom. What began as subtle tension quickly escalated into one of the most notorious behind-the-scenes feuds in television history. And honestly, things turned ugly fast. Imagine being on the set of one of TV's most beloved shows, I Love Lucy, and instead of forming a strong bond with your co-star, you're exchanging dirty looks between takes, firing off passive-aggressive remarks, and counting down the minutes until you could leave. That's exactly what it was like for Vivian and William, who portrayed the constantly squabbling Fred and Ethel Mertz. While the bickering made fans laugh on screen, off-screen it was a storm of bitterness and resentment. The spark? It was a comment Vivian made, maybe meant as a joke, but still cutting, about not wanting to be paired romantically with that old man. William Frawley took serious offense. And from that moment, it was open warfare. Greg Oppenheimer, whose father was the show's head writer and producer, said Frawley took it very personally. That was all it took to turn the tension into a lasting grudge. But it didn't end there. Frawley had a well-known reputation in Hollywood, abrasive, rude, and downright nasty, especially toward women. Audrey Kupferberg, who co-wrote Meet the Mertzes, didn't mince words. She said he was known as a woman hater. Had a drinking problem and a volatile temper, and it's no surprise he and Vivian couldn't get along. At one point, he even used shockingly crude language to describe her. Yes, the C word came up in an interview. It wasn't pretty. Their feud became one of Hollywood's worst-kept secrets. Everyone knew about it. It wasn't just whispers, it was obvious to anyone who spent even a few minutes on set. Even with all the bitterness between them, they somehow managed to remain oddly professional. They showed up, said their lines, and didn't let the dislike derail the production. Still, you could sense it. Every scene between Fred and Ethel carried this tension that wasn't just acting, it was real frustration wrapped in humor. And that's exactly what made their scenes so captivating. You ever watch a couple argue on screen and think, wow, this feels a little too real? That was Fred and Ethel. Frawley would throw in jabs that weren't in the script, comments about Ethel's appearance or her habits, and Vance, who could hold her own, would fire back with zingers like old fat Freddy. These weren't just scripted insults, they came from real irritation. It was petty, it was personal, but it worked. Believe it or not, some TV historians think this hostility actually improved the show. The bickering felt authentic because it was. Their lack of warmth on screen wasn't due to the prim and proper standards of 1950s TV, it mirrored their real-life distaste for each other. And yet, that very dislike created something magical. Strange, right? But let's be real, they were never going to make peace. When I Love Lucy ended, CBS considered a spin-off focused on Fred and Ethel. William Frawley was all for it, he probably saw dollar signs. But Vivian? Absolutely not. She immediately shut it down, refused to work with him again, and that was the end of it. No fake reunions, no smiling for the cameras, just a firm never again from Vance. And honestly, who could blame her? This wasn't some minor workplace tension. It was a full-blown, long-lasting feud that stretched across 6 seasons and still gets talked about today. It scorched its mark on Hollywood history. And the irony? The couple who made America laugh week after week, whose chemistry helped make I Love Lucy legendary, couldn't even be in the same room without eye rolls. Still, they stuck with it, did the job, and in the midst of all that resentment, delivered some of TV's most unforgettable moments. Isn't it strange how some of the most toxic work environments can produce the best art? How does that even happen? Maybe that's just how showbiz works, where hate and creativity somehow mix, and even the worst duos can light up a screen. Flashback to 1957, I Love Lucy is winding down after revolutionizing television. It wasn't just another sitcom, it was the show. It had heart, laughs, chaos, and just the right amount of drama. Most tuned in for Lucy's slapstick and Ricky's charm, but Fred and Ethel Mertz had their own special appeal. That grumpy old landlord and his sharp-tongued wife. They were hilarious, always arguing yet still somehow endearing. So, when CBS and Desilu Studios floated the idea of a spin-off starring Fred and Ethel, it felt like TV gold. Can you even imagine? This wasn't just casual brainstorming. It was a serious plan backed by CBS and Desilu, Lucille Ball and Desi Arnard's powerhouse production company. Desi even pitched it personally to Frawley and Vance, saying something like, "How about giving Fred and Ethel the spotlight?" The concept was simple, clear, and honestly, brilliant. It had real potential. Fans adored the Mertzes. Their love-hate relationship added a whole new flavor to I Love Lucy. They were that relatable couple next door, arguing about nonsense but standing by each other when it counted. The producers saw the fan love and had plenty of ideas. Maybe Fred and Ethel would move to Los Angeles or Albuquerque, maybe run into old friends like Carolyn and Charlie Appleby, or get some new neighbors to bicker with. The creative possibilities were endless. William Frawley, who played Fred, was totally on board. He saw it as a shot at continued work in an industry that often left older actors behind. He was in his 70s, had a long history in vaudeville and film, and understood the importance of staying visible in a fast-changing TV world. For him, this wasn't just a passion project, it was a smart career move. Can you blame the guy? But then it all fell apart, and wow, was it messy. Vivian Vance, our unforgettable Ethel, didn't just decline. She flat out rejected the idea without hesitation. No, maybe, no, let's talk, just a hard no. She slammed the door, locked it, threw away the key, and burned the house down. And the wildest part? They offered her a lot of money. We're talking serious cash, big bonuses. The kind of offer that usually makes people stop and think. But Vivian didn't even blink. So why would she turn down a it and a pile of money? Simple. She truly couldn't stand William Frawley. We're talking about years of pent-up tension, subtle digs, and genuine, unfiltered dislike. She had managed to put up with him during I Love Lucy, probably because Lucy and Ricky helped ease the tension, but the thought of working with him directly, one-on-one, week after week? That was a definite no for her. Imagine spending every day with someone who gets under your skin, and without anyone around to ease the situation. And beyond that, she didn't believe the Mertzes could hold their own as leads. Honestly, that's a pretty sharp and self-aware observation. Vivian understood that the magic of I Love Lucy came from the chemistry of all four characters together. Fred and Ethel were hilarious, yes, but only within Lucy and Ricky's world. Leading a show themselves? She wasn't convinced. She genuinely believed that without the full group dynamic, the whole thing would fall flat. And honestly, she might have been right. Looking even deeper, Vivian was also thinking about her own future. She'd been Lucy's sidekick for years, funny, sure, but always playing second fiddle. Always the one delivering the punchline. Always that other woman when it came to attention and the spotlight. Playwright Kim Powers even noted how she began asking herself, is this all I'll ever be? Just the sidekick. That kind of self-doubt can really wear on a person. It wasn't even just about ego, it was about wanting to grow, to try something new, to escape the box the industry kept her in. But the fallout was intense. Frawley wasn't just annoyed, he was livid. From his point of view, this wasn't just Vivian saying no to a show. It felt like she was rejecting his shot at financial stability, his relevance, maybe even his chance at a comfortable retirement. And considering he already didn't like her, her rejection only made things worse. Their relationship, which had always been rocky, completely fell apart. You could almost hear the final door slam between them. The saddest part? This show could have become a piece of TV history. Some historians have compared them to the Ropers of the 50s, that landlord couple from Three's Company who got their own successful spin-off. Fred and Ethel had similar potential. But because of their long-standing feud, that potential was never realized. So no, this wasn't just a missed opportunity. It became one of the biggest what could have been moments in TV history, all because two people simply couldn't stand each other. Kind of makes you think, doesn't it? How many incredible things never happen because people can't move past personal grudges? It's wild. In the end, we'll never know what a Fred and Ethel spin-off might have looked like. Maybe it would have flopped. Or maybe, just maybe, it could have become another classic. What we do know is that behind the laughter and the iconic black and white smiles, real-life tension simmered, quietly shaping television history. Vivian Vance and William Frawley genuinely disliked each other. And this wasn't mild irritation, we're talking full-blown bitterness that lasted for years. When Frawley passed away, many expected Vance to offer something kind or respectful. But what she actually said shocked everyone. By the end of this story, you'll hear the cold, cutting reaction that left Hollywood stunned. Vivian Vance's reaction to William Frawley's death. William Frawley died on March 3, 1966. You'd think that would be the quiet end to a Hollywood career. But it wasn't. His death marked the close of one of the nastiest, longest-running, absolutely irreconcilable feuds in TV history. And who was the other half of this infamous grudge? None other than Vivian Vance, Ethel to his Fred on I Love Lucy. Imagine spending over a decade pretending to be best friends on camera with someone you couldn't stand in real life. That was their reality, 15 years of smiling through gritted teeth, secretly wishing they were working on different planets. So when Frawley's heart gave out at age 79, how did Vivian react? Get ready. She was apparently enjoying a nice meal at a restaurant when someone came up and told her the news. You might expect a moment of quiet, a simple "oh dear," maybe a polite nod. But no. Vivian didn't pause for a second. She raised her glass and declared, "Champagne for everybody." Can you believe that? That wasn't just a reaction, it was a statement. A mic drop. Years of resentment uncorked even faster than the champagne. And this wasn't said in a whisper or behind closed doors, it was loud, public, and almost instantly became Hollywood legend. Before anyone jumps to call her cold or cruel, consider where she was coming from. This wasn't a matter of a few rude moments. This was years of putting up with Frawley's drinking, his sharp insults, and his generally toxic behavior. Working with him had been draining. She'd endured his drunken jabs, his unpredictable moods, and his complete lack of tact. People say time heals all wounds, but not this one. For Vivian, if anything, the wound deepened with time. What's even more surprising? I Love Lucy had been off the air for nearly 10 years by the time he died. You'd think that much time would soften the anger. Maybe ease the pain just a little. But for Vivian, it clearly didn't. No, seriously, he occupied space in her mind for a full decade after they stopped working together. And it wasn't nostalgia, not even close. Her reaction was so instant and intense, it was clear just hearing his name still struck a nerve. The pain? Still raw. The bitterness? Still there, just beneath the surface, waiting to boil over, and eventually, it did. You have to remember, they were a legendary duo. Fred and Ethel Mertz, America's favorite landlords. They had that feisty, endearing chemistry that audiences adored. Everyone thought their arguments were just good fun. But behind the scenes, it was another story. That tension? Completely real. They could barely stand each other, masking the animosity with flawless comedic timing. Isn't it wild to think about? That two of TV's most beloved characters couldn't even make eye contact off camera? It makes you wonder, how badly must someone get under your skin, every single day, to make their passing feel like a relief? What kind of resentment has to fester for that long to still feel fresh? Vivian Vance never found closure. There was no peaceful resolution, no softening over time. Just hard, unfiltered anger. Her infamous champagne toast wasn't just a snide remark, it was the closing statement in a war she never asked for but had to endure. Imagine being stuck for 15 years with someone who sucks the joy out of your everyday. That's not just workplace tension. That's emotional combat. What's even more heartbreaking is that they never made peace, not even a little. Think about it, two people who created something iconic, who made millions laugh and feel good, lived with so much personal misery. The audience only ever saw the magic, never the storm behind it. But when she casually said, "Champagne for everybody," it ripped the curtain back. It wasn't just a joke. It was decades of bottled-up frustration released in 5 sharp words. So yes, William Frawley's death may have passed quietly, but the reaction? Anything but. Vivian Vance made it clear to the world, no sugarcoating, that she was finally putting down that burden. She opened the bottle, raised her glass, and let it go in the only way she knew how. And honestly, it might have been the most brutally honest farewell Hollywood's ever witnessed. That brings us to the end of this video. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more. And for more stories like this one, go ahead and click the next video that's popping up on your screen now.